After you upload a copy of your Flare project to MadCap Central, you need to make sure the files stay in sync. When you make changes to your Flare project locally, those changes need to be transferred to the cloned project in Central. And if there are other authors on your team using the same project, you'll need to make sure you get their changes into your local Flare project too. The idea is that the local project on each user's computer, as well as the cloned project on Central, should all have exactly the same files at some point. And when you're certain that the cloned project on Central has the most recent changes from all writers, you can then generate and publish builds in Central, knowing that you're dealing with an updated project. If you're not bound to another source control tool, this means that you're working in a single bound model. With this model, Central becomes a complete source control solution. Therefore, you can use the source control ribbon in Flare to control the movement of your files between Flare and Central. This includes pushing files up to Central, pulling files from Central, and more. Here's an example of how it all might work with a team of users. Suppose there are 3 writers on your team: you, Mabel, and Gilbert. As the documentation team lead, you upload the project to Central using the MadCap Central window pane in Flare. This creates a copy of the project in Central with a connection to your local Flare project. Because you have user administration permission in Central, you invite Mabel and Gilbert to join the license, and you give them permission to push and pull content. Once they're added to Central, you create a team with the 3 of you as members. When creating this team, you also choose the Flare project that you uploaded. By doing this, you're associating Mabel and Gilbert with that project, thereby giving them rights to import it and work with it in Central. A team isn't the only way to associate users with a project, but it is one way to do it. Next, you send your team a message asking them to import the project. Mabel and Gilbert each open Flare and log into the MadCap Central window pane. Then, they click this button to import the Flare project from Central to their computers. Now that all 3 of you have a bound copy of the Flare project locally, you each work away on the project just like you normally would. After making some changes, Gilbert opens the source control ribbon in Flare. First of all, he needs to commit his changes to the repository. This is a way of selecting certain files, grouping them together, and adding a comment when you push them up to Central. But if you're not concerned about keeping your changes organized into different groups, you don't need to click the commit button first. Instead, Central will remind you when you attempt to push all of your changed files to Central, and you can do it at that time in one group. So now, Gilbert has the option of clicking Pull and Push one at a time, but instead he clicks Synchronize, which performs both functions. First, Flare tries to pull changes from Central, but there aren't any, because nobody else has uploaded any changes yet. After it tries to pull, Flare does a push, transferring Gilbert's changes to the cloned project on Central. You and Mabel also make some changes. Each of you synchronizes your changes with Central. It pulls any changes to your local copy, such as the changes uploaded earlier by Gilbert, then it pushes your changes to Central. Every once in a while, you might experience a conflict. This means that one of the other writers made a change to the same file that you worked on. When that happens, this dialog opens. The first thing you should do is try to auto-merge all of the changes. This will accept your changes as well as changes from the other writer. But sometimes this is not possible because a change from both writers occurs in the same paragraph of a file, and Central doesn't know which change you want to keep. In that case, you click Resolve. Another dialog opens, giving you a few options. If you're positive that you want to keep the changes from the other writer and ignore your changes, you can click this option. On the other hand, if you know for certain that you want to keep your changes and ignore those from the other writer, you can click this option instead. But if you're simply not sure which changes to keep when there are conflicts, you can select this option to open the Merge tool. In this window, you can see your changes highlighted on the left and the other writer's changes on the right side. This legend helps you see what kind of changes are found. In particular, you want to watch for changes that have diagonal lines like this. This tells you that there's a conflict in the same area that needs to be addressed. When you see an area like that, you can right-click on the icon next to the content you want to keep and select this option. You also have the option of clicking in the area at the bottom and manually typing something else. You might do this if you want to use a combination of your changes and those from the other writer. Click this button to navigate to the next conflict until you've resolved them all. If you see areas where only one writer made a change, you do not need to choose to keep it because Central will automatically merge that change when you're finished. After resolving all conflicts, click OK. If you see a message stating that your changes were not pushed because of the conflicts, click Synchronize again. Your project should then be synchronized with the clone on Central. And later, when Gilbert synchronizes again, he'll get your changes in his local project as well. Over time, as the three of you work on the project, you can also use most of the other options on the source control ribbon as necessary. See this topic in the Flare Online Help for more information about using these options. The only feature you can't use in this version of Central is branching. You, Mabel, and Gilbert work on the Flare project for a couple of weeks, until one day when you think you're ready to build some output. Using Central, you send a message to the team, asking them to synchronize their latest files. All three of you synchronize your project. The cloned project on Central should now be up to date. So now, you open the project in Central and build some output.